Hello guys, this is 13 Ganas. I am joined by a couple of my friends, Gensu and Rusty. Say hi guys.
Yo guys, it's Genso Sekai. Nice to meet you.
What's up, guys? Rusty here.
Today we're going to be doing something a little different that I have done on my channel over the last several years, but I've come out of my hiatus, going to do something new. Going to talk about Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, starting with maintenance news and everything that's been kind of going on in the game. And I've got these two with me to help me out, just kind of keep it not one-sided, get a lot of different
More,
opinions going.
more like to get to let other people flame it while he plays the even-toned person.
Sometimes I can be opinionated, so make it interesting.
Hey, it's all for fun, right? It's all for fun.
It's just a
Sure,
game, guys. It's fine.
it's just a game.
It's like being a hero for fun and profit.
So the news we're going to be talking about will be news that pertains to scheduled maintenance on Wednesday, August 7th. Just have this up.
Already started.
It's already started. This video probably won't be posted until like early Thursday morning. Depends on how fast my internet is.
More, which more like means that it's already over by the time everyone sees it. But hey, sometimes that happens, right?
But at least you know that the news we're talking about pertains to this specific maintenance.
Yep.
So the first thing I thought we should talk about is the 5-star guaranteed type summon, the anniversary follow-up, the banners that we like with extra flair. The 5-star
Well,
guaranteed unit is a great addition to these, honestly.
Well, I mean, type banners in general have always been like a really great thing if you really think about it, because the concept of only having to go to one specific banner and be able to aim your focus on something that is helpful to you has
Yeah,
always been a great thing. And that's literally what type banners do.
most people tend to have a particular weakness, so that's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
For,
and the difference with these ones is that unlike the previous type summons, they aren't gated. They're not, oh, this one's available for 3 days, this one's available for 3 days, and they all have one overlapping day with the previous one, such and such. They're all available for the next week.
praise God, hallelujah, they finally wisened up about the things we want.
Exactly. I think it's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Oh, I
Uh,
mean, there's nothing bad to say about it. I don't think, at
well,
least.
there might be. Let's go ahead and actually look at these type banners and look at what the 5-stars pool actually contains, because the pools are limited. So,
Yeah.
starting with the attack physical magic, we have Mediana, Queen, Nagi, Carlet, Esther, and Zeno.
I can say one thing. I know of at least one person who probably is really excited about the fact that Queen is on a banner, but
Well,
no need to point out names all the time. Saying that. I mean, what?
Queen
I mean
actually
that's.
feels like the odd one out for me, because she's just there for the
I mean,
STMR.
Well, I don't know about that. A lot of people really like to sort of rag on Queen as a unit. She is actually pretty strong if you think about it. If you put her in the right team comp, she can do work, especially because of the global exclusive buffs that her 7-star got. She can hit pretty hard. So
yeah,
it's not like she's weak, but I would say that in terms of like unit age, she's definitely the odd one out, because it's like even Mediana is like relatively recent.
Yeah.
Then there's just Queen.
Speaking of Midiana, though, this that kind of goes in with another reason why I think Queen is a little bit off, is we've got a mage, 3 physical attackers, and 2 hybrids.
No, I mean,
yeah.
in terms of stuff they could have put on there, I'm sure there was a unit they probably could have chosen a little bit better, but I
Well,
don't think Queen is bad.
they don't want
Yeah,
to make it absolutely perfect OP, but
yeah,
it's
that
really
too.
good in my opinion.
Yeah, but Nagi, Carlet, Esther, and Zeno, those are honestly really good additions to this one.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, what would you have rather they put on there? Onion Knight Refia?
I mean, she has a nice sword SDMR, and her regular TMR isn't terrible either.
Yeah, but I say it'd be the same thing. You would be pulling for the you would be pulling they offer. What else?
You seem to be breaking up there a little bit.
Just
Sorry, my internet. Basically, all I said was, oh, please.
You alright there? You alive?
No, yeah, no, I'm here. I'm here. My internet sucks, but anyway, we should just keep going because I think it's the revenge of Queen. Every time I try to say something bad about her, my internet breaks up.
Oh, that's fair.
naughty boy. Naughty
So,
boy. Naughty boy.
since you did the first one, I'll go ahead and talk about the support banner. It's a group of buffers and debuffers, starting up with Sylvie, Zargabath, Eurisha, Orin, Summerfina and Lid, and Beowulf. 3 breakers, 3 buffers, all of them basically god tier for anyone who doesn't have a breaker.
I have nothing bad to say about it.
I
Yeah.
I am sad that King Edgar isn't involved because he
Yeah.
I
is
think it's
also
because
a
they
really good
weren't
debuffer.
going for. I think they weren't going for units that were literally like just released, and I think that might be why Queen was on the banner rather than someone else. But like for this, it kind of like cuts off at Easter, right?
Like I
Like,
said, they can't
Well,
have a
well,
perfect.
Summerfina and Lid, but
Xeno also
yeah,
came out after.
it was close enough, you know,
Yeah.
close enough in time span.
Uh,
There's really nothing bad to say about it,
no,
though.
I think these are all great additions. But again, I probably would have swapped out Beowulf for King Edgar because of King Edgar's 100% water and earth debuff on his break. I honestly think that's just a really good 7-star ability to be able to pull from this type of banner.
Well, I
But
mean, he has the 80% or 84% breaks, full breaks. I
uh
mean,
yeah, as his
Yeah, but you
LB.
also have. Yeah, but you also have. But the only problem I see with Beowulf in terms of being a breaker is that his
oh
breaks decay over time. So,
yeah, I
but
was talking
that
about
doesn't
Edgar.
necessarily. Oh well, yeah, Edgar's really good. But I mean, like in terms of the banner, the only real unit that may not be like to everyone's liking is Beowulf because of those descending breaks.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, there's not a lot wrong with the descending breaks. Have to fly again. And it's not like a break dropping from a 74% to a 64% is all that crazy, especially when you can just reapply it before you attack.
Yeah.
But, I know there's a lot of people that don't like micromanaging stuff like that.
He's
But
got
So
what
one.
that's really,
Beowulf
He has,
does have a 100% light debuff and
that's
some
big,
killers.
and
exactly. So I think he's a pretty good unit.
also the dispel thing is kind of unique. He can dispel and break when.
That is true.
Yes. Very good. Very true. Very.
It's good for new players, I would say.
Yes.
So, Rusty, you want to handle the healer banner?
Okay. The healer banner. I mean, you have strong healers here, along with I mean, Aerith, Folka, Ayaka are all very top end healers. Can do the job for you.
I
Ram is. You
yeah, I
want to
feel
disagree there?
well, I just feel like Yuna and Aiko are definitely the uh like I don't know. This is just an awkward one for me because it says healer summoner, and Yuna and Aiko are mainly summoners, and both of them don't really get their healer aspects until you enhance them.
Oh, I have enhanced 7 Yoko. She's just a dream.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's really the thing. It's really about with this banner, it's about investment because if you really want, you can literally use any of those healers and you'll pretty much be set.
Oh yeah.
But um, some of them require less investment. Like I would say, Aerith requires a less investment than
Newer
or Rem,
unit.
especially Rem. But
Newer
like,
unit. Yeah.
well, yeah, that too. But I think Folka is probably the one that's the easiest to use out of all of them, just because of how easy her kit is to work around.
Oh
So
She
yeah.
really,
is.
like,
She's
I've
also going to be
used,
useful for something coming up that we'll talk about later.
I used
yeah,
her for
definitely.
a couple trials recently, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I wish I had her
Well,
for Alfred.
I'll be real. There were a couple of like, I wish I had her freaking tag me. Like, are you kidding
Oh
me? She
yeah.
would have made that trial like such a joke. And like keeping in mind, like to make it very clear, I think Tagmine was a raging pile of steaming crap during the trial on release. So if you ever hear me compare anything to Tagmine, that means that either really hated it or I really think that it should burn and die.
Oof.
I don't like Tagmine. I don't like it. Even in the 7-star era, I just don't like it.
I don't think I've done that one yet. I'll have to look into it.
Oh,
I'm behind on trials.
It was like on release, it was an RNG fest where you basically had to like have the perfect team or you just died.
Oof.
Everything about Tagline is garbage. But now it's a lot easier with stuff like 7-star tanks and people being able to like AoE Mirage without wasting a unit slot and all
Yeah.
these other stuff. But now it's not that bad now, but it used to be.
Yeah. So
Anyway,
I feel like we're all in agreement the healer and summer type is basically the best option if you don't have like your fourth or second of any of these.
oh yeah, 100%.
Because
probably.
I
Hell, even if
definitely
you
need
don't
a
have your
fourth
first,
Yuna. Oh yeah.
I mean, like,
No.
dude, even if you don't have your first, the healer summoner banner is literal cash.
Oh yeah.
I would love to have a second, yeah.
And then the next one, the tank physical magic type, this one I think is probably another really good one. Um, Awakened Rain, Seacard, Wilhelm, Mark Ramza, Bosch, Gladiolus. Um,
I feel like this banner is literally the story of zeros to heroes
yeah,
because like the two best units on this banner are Merc Ramza and Gladiolus in my opinion. Well, Seacard is definitely like the number one up there, but like if you really think about it, Merc Ramza and Gladiolus on the JP side are literal like Gladiolus isn't useless because of certain other trials that come out in the future, but like Merc Ramza, literal zero to hero story.
oh yeah. And Awakened
Yeah,
Rain,
I like
Seacard,
that.
they were number one or still number one. They're still number one at JP. Awakened Rain was beaten out
Charlotte
by
would like to
Charlotte.
argue you. Yeah.
No, but the recent latent abilities has actually made Awakened Rain really good.
Oh,
Oh
I
no,
use
he's
them
definitely
constantly.
80%
Boiling Rain is
fire
cool.
and earth, just straight up. Nothing required, just 80% fire and earth resistance.
Perfect for him since he was already somewhat resistant to fire and earth anyway.
Yeah,
So an
I
extra
think
80%, that means he's at 120, I believe. Innate?
110
If
or
not
120
115.
innately. You have to equip some stuff to get those passives, I believe. It's not innate.
It's like his TMR. It's TMR or STMR, I'm pretty sure that's about it. Well,
But
either way, I think the
yeah.
point remains they're all really good units.
I mean,
Yeah.
I can definitely real quick pop it open.
Yeah. But generally speaking, I
Particular-
think as far as tanks go,
partic-
for most of the future trials, your tank really depends on the strategy you're going for. And with global being the way that it is with tanks, um, I think there's going to be a lot of trials in the future that aren't going to be nearly as hard as they originally were when they came out on JP because of the limited number of tanks that they had. While global has units like White Knight Noel, who is literally capable of doing any type of tanking you really want because his mitigation is literally broken. Units like Lilith, Barrow, and all this other stuff that we have that the JP doesn't, and that I believe is really going to be what makes the difference between certain teams and certain trials.
That doesn't
So
seem
I'm
right.
really happy.
So for
What?
people deciding whether to summon on this, what would be the next tank coming down the line, do you think?
So as far as I remember, I have some JP knowledge. Knowing that the last tank we got was CG Charlotte, um, assuming no global exclusives that coming in, the next tank will be Dawn Warrior Galoof, who
Ooh,
will be releasing after Soul and will be releasing as part of the banner right before CG Bartz.
right, yeah, because
In
it's
terms of units, he's really strong. He's one of the strongest physical tanks. But you
we'll want
know,
to watch out for Warrior of Light and
Yes.
Cecil though.
yeah, but
Cecil's way
those
down the
are
road.
yeah,
He
those are
is, yes,
like
but I think he's the next Magic tank, 5-star.
He's
Is
got both,
he? I
I
believe
believe.
so. Yeah. Let me pull him up because I believe you might be right that he does both. But no. He seems to be mostly focused around spirit. No, he only does magic. He only does magic, but he is the next magic cover, barring global exclusives, of course,
Yeah,
coming down the line.
but he won't
So
be for a while, so I would definitely focus on getting Awakened Rain, or even getting Charlotte if you get lucky with some regular banners. Real quick though, I'm looking at the passives for Awakened Rain, and without enhancements, it looks like he has 80% innately for Fire and Earth already. 6 stars,
Yeah,
74, he gets 50.
160?
30% at 120 with intensifying power.
see,
Um,
the latent ability is 80% for the whole party. It's an active move.
oh, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't pay attention to it. Oh, it is. That's
That would
actually
that would
not
add to
bad.
his too. So
Yeah.
160.
So it is okay. So it is an active. So that kind of
Kind of good, kind
turns
of
me
bad.
away. It turns me away from it because it's not really an innate for him. So just because I like to think about it as like just focusing on building him, but in terms of support, that actually gives him something else to use in his rotation. Because I often find myself at a loss. I do magic cover, I do provoke, and then I'm just like now what? I do his
Well,
cooldown that boosts resistance to abilities, and then I've got one extra turn to mess around with.
yeah,
Uh,
but then you have to reapply the provoke. Well, oh no, wait, because his enhancements made his
It's
provoke last 3 turns, right?
yeah,
right.
yeah.
So no, yeah, he kind of has an empty, which is well, no, but he could always use like his self spirit buff or just swipe down. There's always a number of things you can do with him.
Or a
Um,
spirit attack to gather LB.
yeah, that is also
Yeah,
a possibility. He has
but
a pretty decent spirit break. It's a spirit break. That's what the move is. Magical distraction.
I completely forgot about that.
magical distraction's a magic break. It's
It's a magic.
65% with spirit scaling magic damage 3 times
So,
modifier.
that's not that bad. I mean, the modifier's low, but like you're not expecting him to put out the big deeps. So
No,
That's not what
and
it's for.
the spirit scaling is actually an addition. Magic damage spirit scaling is an addition from magical distraction +1.
yeah, exactly.
So you guys
Uh,
want to move on to the next thing?
well,
Uh,
if we wanted to talk about future tanks, obviously we have to mention Lena coming out for a healer.
uh, yeah. Well, I mean, I figured that like considering a lot of the future stuff right now is probably less needed because it's what real like the thing is we'll be able to talk about the FF5 units when they're out, and believe me, there's a lot we can say about them, but who knows what they are going to get that's different. Like while I don't expect it, there's always a possibility of any global exclusive buffs that change how the unit really functioned.
Yeah.
So I think that like it's good to sort of keep in mind that units like these are coming out, but for all we know, they could be completely different options.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to mention Lena because we mentioned Galuf and Warrior of Light and Cecil for tank, but I don't really think we should mention anything for attack or support, really, because that seems to be the two types that they like to focus on for the global exclusives.
There's literally a million
And
damage
they're
dealers. We don't need to talk about that.
yeah, and they're
Yeah,
already strong. So
like Esther
Exactly.
Zeno, those are global exclusives. Sylvie Zargabath, those are global exclusives. But in terms of healer and tank, which of those are global exclusive? They've got global upgrades, sure.
Yeah. No, I agree. But anyway, we should probably keep it moving because we could
Well,
probably
yeah.
talk about just these type banners for an entire video.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's only been 20 minutes. But, so, in addition to these banners, every single one of these will provide you with the anniversary follow-up summon coins. We don't know how much they're going to give per step or however they end up doing this. Yeah, they're
Do they say?
they gave
it's a 9 plus
last
2
time.
type summons. So
They usually,
it's 311 pulls.
yeah.
But we don't know
But
how
these
many
usually
coins
give,
per, probably 2 per summon, so that's what,
yeah, 1 or 2.
6, 18.
Last time they gave
That's probably 24
they gave
max.
they gave 3, and
3?
Yeah, and it cost 6 coins for a 5 star or a select summon ticket.
Okay. So yeah, these summon coins, you can get them from the banners, summon them. It I they don't say whether or not these are what is going to be in there, or whether or not it's going to be other things that they haven't quite announced yet.
Oh, it
No,
But
no,
actually
well,
does.
they do. They say a little bit, you know.
well, yeah, but
10% Moogles, STMR tickets, max level Cactuars, and some UOC tickets. It
Yep.
doesn't say everything, but
it
uh,
says you can exchange for the following items. That's what it says. So I'm not sure if it's
I
saying
mean,
these are the 4 items you can exchange for, or if there's something they're hiding.
yeah,
I,
that's always a
I
possibility.
think you're gonna want to get either the USC ticket or some STMR tickets,
Yeah,
probably.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, absolutely. You need 100. Last I remember, you need 100 STMR tickets to get one STMR. So any
yeah,
chance you can get of getting STMR tickets is always something is a like an easy thing to do. I think
but
nowadays UOCs have a bit of a lesser value, but this is my opinion, um,
It's a close
compared to
call.
STMR tickets because it's easy to get two of a unit. It's very hard to get four.
that's
So
fair. But you don't want to completely sleep on the unit of choice, just in case you only get one.
no, exactly. You're correct. Like I said, it's a slightly lesser value.
But I also, as someone who wastes, choice, someone who just kind of wastes his resources, I would also say don't exactly just completely throw out the idea of getting these Moogles or Cactars, because having additional ways to get these is very nice, especially if you don't quite have enough to get the tickets. It's definitely something else to spend, or maybe you don't want to buy all the Super Chest Moogle tickets. You want to get
Sure.
some regular Chest Moogle 10%, or maybe you're like just one more max level character away from level 120. You're Esther.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But if it's just these 4, I honestly think this might be a really good exchange shop.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good exchange shop for good banners.
Oh
Yeah.
boy.
I ideally try to summon 2, maybe pick up a select summon ticket, or pick up summon once and pick up 3 STMR tickets.
Yeah.
Call.
Moving on though, and this
Oh
is
boy.
definitely a heated topic. This has a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. I just want to go through it real quick before we go into anything. But
Oh
we
boy.
have a new thing, a trial marathon. They're calling it the Road Through Hell. It's very similar to the trial triplet we got a while ago with the
Yeah,
3 trial bosses.
with a major,
Ex-
major difference.
Except these are old week 2 trials. We've got Vision of Bahamut trial on Friday. Uh, we've got the Cycle Clown from Final Fantasy 6 on Saturday. Doctor Sid and Famfreet on Sunday. Battle of Cain Monday. Tuesday is the Trial of Vengeance, which is disgusting. I hate Hasuko. I don't know why she's back.
Everyone hates
Um,
Asuko, but oh
She's
my god,
back again.
can
but
I
it
make a
looks
quick
like,
have my quick rant on this because I have some very strong opinions about this.
well, just real quick, these are the dates that they are starting, but they are all available from when they start until the end of date or end of server
Reset.
day on the Friday. So Thursday's your last day, really.
Mhm.
Um, but they all start at different intervals, starting with Bahamut on Friday, and uh, the resource rewards, the event currencies, will be replaced with Gil Snapper families, which I think is okay depending on how much they're willing to give us, because that's 500,000 per family.
Yeah.
You mean the
So
towers?
yeah,
Yeah.
those are the families of the 3 stack. So really quick, I want to point out a couple of things about this that I really don't like. Well, no, before I get to what I don't like, let me get to what I like about this. On a personal level, as someone who's been playing this game for 2 years, this is a really nice thing because this gives people a chance to, especially like older players who maybe at the time weren't strong enough to get these rewards, or newer players who literally just weren't around to get them, to get these rewards again. And that's a really good thing. It really helps a lot of accounts, especially early on, because some of the gear that you get from these is pretty, like, decent. Oh, man,
I
though.
have
For
been
any,
playing for about 2 years. This seems to be going in order from release date, and
yeah,
I
exactly.
remember starting when Dr. Sid was around. I remember that happening around when I started. I don't know when exactly, but I remember seeing it and going, "This looks way too tough for me."
Yeah, I remember back with Vision of Bahamut. Back that was back when Roberta was released, and that was a fun trial, but
Oh yeah,
it was actually super hard. But honestly, like, here's my issue with this. Like, it's very nice for new accounts and maybe for some people who didn't get something, but in the vast aggregate, all of these rewards are useless. Like, the only rewards that I really think have the most value here, and this is entirely opinion based, is manufactured nethicite and the locket from Hasiko.
I like the
Mm,
locket.
The locket's nice, not necessary, but it's really good for a healer.
what was
Other
the
Okay.
than
first
that,
thing you mentioned?
the manufactured nethicite, that's from Sid and Famfrit.
Isn't that the
Um,
event currency though, or is
no,
that the ability?
manufactured nethicite was the ability.
Okay.
It was it's Celeste Sealing Blade as a materia. The
Oh,
thing about manufactured nethicite is that you don't need it. A lot of people like to bring up manufactured nethicite as like this required thing for certain trials. Here's the thing, you don't need it.
Pretty
that's
much.
fair.
For
Yeah.
the most part, with the amount of units we have as supports that give balls to the wall mitigation, manufactured nethicite is kind of a moot point. Why would you take manufactured nethicite when you can just have a Zargabath use his LB and get an instant 50% mitigation? General mitigation at that,
That's
which
fair.
will
Yeah.
then stack with a magic mitigation or physical mitigation, depending on what you're getting bursted with. Why do you even need that? The gear outside of for a new player is really weak.
Well,
You
the
like
only halfway recent trial is Hasiko, so it
exactly.
makes
But
sense.
that's going to be
So,
very annoying, as it
uh,
usually is.
Yeah.
Hasiko is really like the most annoying part of Hasiko is just the MP drains and stuff
Yeah.
like that and the berserk. But like for most of these, like anyone with like let me put it this way: for most people, they're going to one shot. They're going to one shot Bahamut. You can one shot Kefka, just not on turn one. You have to wait for him to change his elemental resistance. But generally speaking, no, I think you might be able to just non-elemental burst him. But that's I don't know about that one. I don't remember how that trial works all that well. Sid and Famfrit will get one shot. Kane will get one shot.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I think Kane has a HP threshold. I don't remember. And Hasika is going to be the only one for most people.
Yeah.
Which is like, to me, it's like, couldn't you guys have done something a little bit more useful? Couldn't you have done like I like the concept of challenging old trials again for new rewards or getting those rewards again is always a great thing. But this is not the best. Like if you're gonna do this with trials that are in the game. And if you're going to make them, if you want to make the rewards special, make them a little harder. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to do something like if you want to do a real road to hell, do Gilgamesh, Aigaon, Blood Moon, or no, not Bloody Moon. Bloody Moon would be for like a mage trial. So like
Blood Moon's
Gilgamesh,
already in a trial marathon.
yeah, fair enough. So I like Gilgamesh, first Gilgamesh, Aigaon, um, let's say Echidna, Rumble of Malboro, and
So you want more
uh,
of what they gave us before with
I want
the trio.
not what I want, not necessarily the trio. They could do it like this, where it's like on a specific if on a specific day you do a trial, you can get a buff to reward. The problem with stuff like this is that like once they do all of these once, no one's gonna care again. Because at that point, again, the majority of the player base has them.
Yeah.
You know,
Although I will
most of
say,
these most of these you can be carried through with a friend, except for Hasiko.
yeah, I will say though those elemental resistances, sure they're only plus 20%, but that is still really good.
Oh no, you know what? You are right. The elemental resistance. part of it, and I think that is something that is to be considered. But for the aggregate, it's like nowadays when we get people and TMRs that can grant that buff plus like a stat boost, I just feel like that's a little bit of a cop out, or it's weak. It's not good enough.
Do you think
Yeah.
this would be better with 10% Moogles instead of 5%?
Yes, absolutely.
Will they do that though?
Never.
No.
Because they would have to change the mission as well. They'd have to make it harder.
Probably.
They don't have to, but they won't.
Yeah, basically what Rusty said. It's not that they have to. They would.
It's Gumi, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to say that it's a bad thing, but you need to find a balance. You can't just be like, oh, hey, if you defeat him with fire, you get a 10% trust Moogle. It's like, okay, Firaya, and then one shot with my meta units.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think it's a good concept. I just think that they need to do more. They need to do more. It is a good concept. It's a good start. I hope they continue with it. They need to do more though.
Yeah. But I think I will probably just do these just for the Gill Snapper families, the Resistances, and the Moogles. I really don't see anything else that... What was the ability for Kane? Do we know?
For
Do we
Kane,
remember?
I don't remember. I think it was a gear. I think from the battle with Kane, it was a gear that you got.
It's an ability.
There's an ability.
It was no. Oh yeah, no, it was an ability. It was mental clarity. Mental clarity is
Pretty
attack
weak.
spirit 20% and resistance to confusion 100%.
Oh, that's yeah.
I have 2 Legendary Guardians. That's not really necessary for me, but for
I
anyone
get people
else...
for a starting account, something like that is very useful because confuse is probably one of the most obnoxious
Yeah.
status effects that you can get slapped with. So,
But attack and spirit 20% is a little bit awkward for placing onto units for a new account, and that will probably be one of the first abilities that you replace. It just seems a little awkward that it's both attack and spirit. That seems like something that you would want for like a Leela or something.
definitely, it's definitely for specific units. It's not like for everyone. But it is it. But the one benefit it does have is that for some trials there are uncoverable magic attacks. So don't forget that, like in the case of an uncoverable magic attack, you do want some amount of spirit on your units. So it's not like the worst, but it's also not the best.
Yeah, but for someone like me who is starting to get a growing number of STMRs, I would definitely would prefer that percentage to be a bit higher.
Well, dude, if we're talking about a growing number of STMRs, none of these abilities are useful for you.
Oh yeah, no.
Pretty much.
I mean, the resistances might still be just to finish off. Like, say, I got Lulu's STMR recently, 60% magic, and what is that? 60% water resistance as well. I think some amount of water resistance.
Certainly.
But that water resistance plus 20% that I also have, I will still put on someone who needs a bunch of water resistance just because maybe I just need that extra 20%. And there are other abilities that are better, but I mean, like, do I want to do that or do I want to get the Drowned King? Probably the Drowned King, but you know,
Depends on your
just
resources.
an example.
Depends on your resources.
Definitely.
So Rusty, did me and Ginsu kind of monopolize this? Do you have any thoughts or opinions on this?
Yeah.
Not much to say, really. It's old trials. It may help newer players, like everything y'all said.
Yeah. I definitely think something I just actually thought of, this might actually also be a nostalgia factor for a lot of older players. Veterans might see this with this thought process. Veterans may see this as hey, this is something I haven't done in years. Let's try doing this with the same units I did before, but better, because either they're enhanced or they've got 7 stars now. Why not let's do Sid with my queen, but she's a 7-star now.
No, I definitely think that's a good idea. That's definitely one aspect of it. They're definitely aiming for the nostalgia with that. I just think they could have done a little bit more on the nostalgia side,
Yeah,
as someone who
this definitely feels like another third anniversary follow-up type event.
Yeah.
I hope they do more of it though. The
Oh
concept was
yeah.
great.
In
Um,
general, it's kind of a dead week, so it's a very good week for doing trials, including these, or catching up on story, whichever you need.
Absolutely.
but speaking of all these, moving on, we do have Final Fantasy XIII's second week. It's going to be an exploration, as most King Mogs usually are. It
Yeah.
seems to either be the exploration or the big boss. But this one has a big boss still, Aster Protoflorian, which seems to do both physical and magical AoE attacks. Um, it can be, it can get its defense and spirit reduced, and it will boost fire, ice, lightning, and water resistance every turn.
Well,
So,
or it's an
or
aura.
okay, yeah,
So I think for this one, one of the best things you can do, unless it has an innate resistance to elements like, say, earth or earth, light, or dark, you might
yeah,
want to go into this with one of those three elements.
Don't
One,
forget wind.
yes,
yeah,
wind as well. Thank you for reminding me. But I think for this one, it's as far as defending, since it brings up that it does physical and magic attacks that hit everyone. What that probably means is that you're going to want a physical cover or a magic cover. But
yeah.
with trials like this, it's the same thing for the 10-man trial, Shala or whatever the twins.
Yes, I just
Um,
finished that actually.
the thing about a trial like this is that you absolutely, when doing these, have to decide which one you're doing and then stick with it. Trying to bounce back and forth between physical and magic and physical magic, it doesn't work very well, especially in non 10-man. Because in like a 10-man
Exactly.
trial, you can have your
Swap.
physical tank up in the front and then switch it the next turn to a magic tank by putting them in the back. But with a normal trial, you can't do that. So you have to really think long and hard about which you decide to go with, and then just mentally stick with that.
Yeah, I will say personally, I will probably be using a magic tank, and because my units, especially I use Esther as Xeno as my chaining partners, but they both have lackluster spirit, but they've got a decent amount of defense. So for me personally, I would want my magic tank up to cover, just to cover the weakness from my attackers.
What about you, Rusty? What will you be doing?
Definitely the same. I am a huge fan of Awaken Rain, or if you have CG Charlotte, this should be a absolute piece of cake.
It
Hmm.
also depends on what what elemental attacks it deals or modifiers as well, because maybe its physical modifier is really high, but its magic modifier is really low. We kind of need to get a little bit more information, which we will find out once maintenance and all the data miners do, which I'm surprised ours isn't doing yet.
No, it's because there's nothing new. But
Exactly.
so one thing to consider also is the rewards.
Yes.
And since we were
Yes.
just talking about rewards with the Road to Hell, let's taking a look at these. We have two 5% Moogles, one just for clearing a hard difficulty, and then one for clearing with defeating the boss with a limit burst. Pretty easy to
Esther,
do.
here I
That just,
go.
it just means that you got to bring someone that, you don't necessarily need like an Esther, but you do need to bring someone that has a damaging limit burst to cap the chain that you use to finish with if you're not comfortable using a limit burst to kill it.
Oh,
You
my
also, oh, go
Xeno
ahead.
has Collider Slash, which chains with the AR family, which is Esther's Limit Burst, and Xeno can as dual wield, so it goes twice, and his Collider Slash is backloaded, I
Yeah.
believe. Either
Yeah,
that
this
or
is
it's consecutive attack. Either way, definitely increases the damage for Esther's Limit Burst.
always a possibility. The other rewards are for evoking an Esper for 10,000 of the event currency. That's really easy to do because it's an exploration, That's the one good
Oh
thing
yeah.
about explorations with evoke missions. You don't have to do it in the battle, and that's something that I think people should probably remember. You
And
don't have
limit
to do
burst. You can
yeah,
get your limit burst up too.
exactly. Getting your limit bursts up before you enter the battle and then saving them for that last turn, always a good thing to do. The last thing, and this one is another easy one to do. Deal light damage 2 times or more to an enemy. Note how no the big thing to point out is that it just says an enemy, not to the boss. So
Yeah.
you don't necessarily need to use that. You don't necessarily need to bring a light damage deal into the boss. You can just have your healer give your healer like Rama, and then have them cast Banish twice
Oh,
Exactly.
during
I'm just
in
gonna
one
have
of the
my
turns.
Fina do her holy move. I think she can dual cast that.
Yeah. Either way, as long as you do light damage twice during at least one of the fights, you get access to a 20% light resist materia. As we were saying before, 20% resistance materials, not exactly the most game changing anymore. They can still be very helpful gearing for some trials, like especially I remember like a lot of people were having trouble at all points gearing fire resistance for Ancient Hellbringer. So, if a trial comes up where you need a bunch of light resist, maybe having that 20% materia is just enough to tip you over the edge. Not likely, but still is a possibility to have just like sitting in your back pocket.
And you actually skipped over the main reward, which
Oh,
I'm kind of a fan of, the tungsten bangle, which
yeah.
is an accessory, and it has HP plus 30%, which is quite nice, I think. And it has tungsten bangle, which is boost attack and magic when HP falls below a certain point, which is meh. But 30% HP is 30% HP.
It is. Gladiolus will definitely enjoy that.
Yes, absolutely. I could even see, depending on what the percent of the attack and magic boost is, there are some units that really do use that, like passives that drop them below a certain point in HP. You
Ellis
know,
Ferris, perhaps.
Ellis Queen, or I know at least a couple of people have been really big on Monk Sabin recently because
Oh yeah.
of his ability, because of how strong his LB is. So on someone like Monk Sabin, you can make him tanky, and he'll deal a little bit more damage after you use his ability.
Yeah, so this is a surprisingly good uh, reward, in my opinion,
And of
Definitely,
course,
definitely.
use
for
the
for a weekly
um,
boss.
use the banner units if you want to, but no one's really gonna do that unless they decide they want to do Lightning and Esther, because apparently that's a really good combo. Who knew?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, definitely a very strong combo. But that's mainly just because like Esther was already strong, and Lightning and Radiant Lightning as a unit has proven herself to be quite powerful. So
I can vouch for that.
So let's go ahead and move along the next 2 points, because our last one's going to take quite a bit, and we're already at 40 minutes, which I expected this to be a bit long. We're discussing these. We're not just being like, here's all the news. This is definitely just getting opinions out, making sure that
mhm.
this is definitely going to be a podcast, definitely. Um, but moving on, I am actually really excited for this. The short stories for Awakened Rain and Reagan. Uh,
Yes, very much.
if Ginsu, if you want to go ahead and do talk about Awakened Rain, and then Rusty, I'll let you talk about Reagan.
Sure.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So Awaken Rain as a unit, his passive he gets all elemental resistances plus 10%, which for a magic tank is very good. The one of the things to really think about when considering the abilities that are unlocked by short stories, especially for units like Awaken Rain and support units, is like how does this affect the unit's ability to do their job? And as far as I can tell, the thing about Awaken Rain is that his just makes it a little bit easier again. You know, you don't necessarily have to panic about building his stats up right now, if you look at his stats, including with his ability awakenings and then his latent abilities, he has all of these resistances and all of these like tanky passives. He's a very solid tanky unit, and one of the most important things as far as I'm concerned is the fact that all this does is make him easier to use for other trials. You don't necessarily have to slot him in for just the fire and earth trials. Now you can slot him in for Leviathan. You can put him in for, Alexander. And you don't necessarily need to have as much gear as you did previously. Admittedly, 10% is not a lot.
But
But
like we talked about with the
10%,
20%, it is something.
it's something. And that is the important. Because if you combine what he already has, as far as being a fire and earth tank, he's definitely sitting at the highest base fire and earth resistance of any unit in the game, I believe.
That's
Um,
90% for fire and earth.
yeah, he is sitting at
If
90% fire and earth right now, which
if
is
you use
insane.
his latent ability that we talked about earlier, that bumps him up to 170 each.
Yeah. And so, generally speaking, I think this is a very good thing for him. Not the best. I wish they had made it 20%, but I guess that would have been a little bit too broken to get for free.
What's
So
wrong
I
with
sort of understand.
what's
15
wrong
would
with
be about right.
Yeah, I agree. I think 15 probably would have been just enough to not be too good and just enough to not be too broken.
is 100% earth and fire resistance innately broken?
No, because not a lot of trials really. I don't think a lot of trials really use them, and with the number of imperils that are coming along on bosses, some of them having up to like 200 to 300% imperils that they cast about every turn sometimes, or at least at certain turns. Um, Having a unit with a base 100% resistance to two elements doesn't necessarily make them broken, but it does make it easier for them a little too easy for them to be geared. Not that like 90% is much different though.
Yeah. Um, so Rusty, I know this one's a little bit easier to talk about, but Reagan.
Oh, it is. Well, yeah, Reagan. He gets dual blade mastery, increased damage limit for various chains when armed with two one-handed weapons. So translation, according to someone I talked to, is that raises his chain cap to 6x, which is very, very exciting.
And I just wanted to real quick say the attack cap for dual wielding has already been increased to 200%, which is why that's not included onto here.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we are still waiting for Reagan's awakenings for his latent abilities, but fingers crossed they should be soon, right?
They should be, yes. I was actually expecting them this week, but I guess not. But at the same time, his latent abilities, so far latent abilities have been slightly different from JP, I think. So
It's hard to tell, but I do remember someone saying that, like, for some of the latent abilities, they were basically the same at +2 as their JP counterparts. But it does give people like a chance to mess around with the abilities, to decide whether or not they really need it or not,
yeah,
prior to just do and it makes the trials a little bit less of, here, let me just do this one and done and never touch it again type of thing.
yeah. But I
Not
do hope that Reagan's enhancements and his latent abilities, paired with this dual blade mastery, makes him a really good unit. Because I wouldn't mind him being maybe a meta unit. I probably wouldn't expect him to be a top damage dealer, but I wouldn't mind him being close.
He has some support aspects, some raid aspects. He's kind of a jack of all trades.
He is, yeah. Um, but I want him to be usable again.
Oh, absolutely.
I want to say the same for Nyx, but that's not going to happen.
Wait, man, I know a lot of crap about Nyx, but he's not the worst. Come on, you can't
Well,
like super talk that much trash about Nyx. He can
Okay,
still be good sometimes,
well,
but
there,
is
outside of just killing himself to give everyone else their limit.
you took the words out of my mouth.
Well, so his only chaining move is King's Blade, and that can only chain with Jiraiya if he unlocks it, or Yoon from the Lunar Festival
Yeah,
banner, which
Lunar
is
New Year.
limited, or Lucius, who is from the Halloween limited banner. I
And
just feel like he was treated unfairly.
oh no, he definitely Nyx definitely was kind of given. He was kind of given the shaft, but at the same time, I think he can still be useful. That's what I'll say. I'll leave it at that.
He
Because
was definitely
if
forced into the support role.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Okay then.
but this was kind of a quick thing, which I'm glad for. This will be available Thursday, which should be today, marking today as in the when this video comes up, hopefully. Um, but what will also be starting today, hopefully when this video comes up, will be a Steel Castle Milfikia. This one will be rare abilities for all weapon types, all the level 4s, level 7 for bows, High Tide Plus, um, all the 40% and 20% HP and whatever extra stat it is. Any quick thoughts on this one?
Generally speaking, I think that one of the things that people need to consider as far as the Steel Castle that I don't think that many people do. No offense to anyone who might take accidental offense to this. I can't see you, so I don't know. Is that with the Steel Castle, you don't need to roll perfectly. I know a lot of people will talk all the time about rolling these perfect rolls on their weapons and perfect rolls on their knives and guns and great swords and everything. Getting perfect rolls is nice to have happen, but to go in hunting for a perfect roll just means that you're not going to be able to get to everything that you want. The best way I believe to use an event like Steel Castle Mafia and or Item World as everyone kind of calls it is to focus on the equipment that will help you get to the next level of whatever you're doing. So
And then
uh yeah,
and then if you get done with that, you can run your Bowie knife over and over again.
exactly. So considering that there's quite a number of things that should happen, I think some roll what you have that is good for what we're about to talk
As I'm scrolling down here, I'm just kind of scrolling down just to have this up on the screen, so if anyone isn't quite used to it, they can real quick either pause the video or skim it real quick as I'm scrolling down, uh, just so that they kind of get an idea. I've actually been kind of doing that for the previous things as well, just so that they can see the rest of the news while we talk about things.
considering
I
how
actually
long we spent talking about some of these topics, it's not a surprise that you could probably have scrolled down, up, down fully like 3 times for some.
especially with the trial marathon. uh,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
wanted to point out I was actually wrong about the starting date. It's not available until Friday.
Yeah,
Friday through Friday.
yep.
Yep,
Friday to Friday.
I'm actually very used to them starting them on Thursdays like they've been doing. So this is interesting
We,
for me.
Yeah, but considering all the bugs they've been having with Item World as it's been releasing, it's not a surprise that they kind of gave it a day to settle in, make sure that it doesn't like literally break again, and then just making sure that nothing happens.
Yeah, I
they
also wanted
also.
to.
Oh, go ahead.
Uh, I just wanted to interject with the whole all these perfect runs. I just want to slowly slide in my summer whip with its 62% MP.
Jesus, man.
It's a great whip. Uh, anyways, Rusty.
Oh, I forgot what I was. Oh, yeah. It used to be that they would cheat us out of the day. We only had 6 days. Now we have 7. So it's
Well,
kind of
we would still have the
No,
7 because it went from. Oh no, I guess it would end.
no, it goes from reset to reset. Basically, it just goes Friday at reset to Friday at reset. So,
just
Yeah,
nice.
and before it was Thursday to Wednesday, and we didn't get to do all of Wednesday, so it was more like 6 3/4 of a day.
yeah.
Which I mean, we
So,
still don't get that quarter because of maintenance, but
Right.
whatever.
yeah, it just means that you pay attention to it a little bit closer
Oh
as
yeah,
near that timeline.
Speaking of
And
paying attention, and I'm guilty of this, don't forget your EP missions, the daily EP.
friendly
Yes.
reminder.
Nice little nice job slipping that in there. Nice. But
I've
we
missed it for the
should
last 2 days. Oof.
nice. But we should move on to this last bit because this is gonna take a bit of time to talk about, and
It will.
ooh, it's a big one.
Starting tomorrow, or today, I guess, when this video drops, starting today, a new Scorn quest in the Chamber of Indignant. This is one we've been waiting for a little while. It is the Scorn of the Glacial Ice Bird, whatever you want to call it. Ice
In
Bird Kai.
short, Scorn of Reset Bird. In other words, the Reset Bird strikes back.
Yeah, so real quick, Moogle tips here. Moogle says the Glacial casts a reflecting effect on itself and its Glacions, before bouncing magic off of them, so your party will be hit for each one on the field.
Kukupo.
So that's a little awkward, from what I'm hearing from that, is don't cast magic, at least
Yeah.
AoE magic. Because
Pretty
you're
Yeah,
gonna cast
essentially the way that will work, well, the way it would probably work is that, based on the way it's reading, is that what it will do is Glacial will cast Reflect on itself and then on the Lacons around it, and then it will cast a spell on itself. And as you know, even if it's a single target spell, the way enemy reflects work is that even if it's a weak spell, it will reflect off of them and hit everyone. So you definitely want to have a strong group of elemental resists with you.
Yeah,
So
so
and
if it's got 3 Glacons and you cast your Firaya, it's going to say, I didn't get hurt by that, but you're going to get hurt by it 4 times.
mhm.
I want to
And
point out
that's
something.
dangerous.
I want to point out something that I'm not sure everyone knows, but reflect does not work on level 8 magic.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
alright.
actually it's like a lesser known thing because it's not really talked about because usually when you see the reflect effect, you just don't cast magic. But yes, that is something to point out and something that a lot of people may miss. So
Yeah.
good looking out, Rusty.
So next tip, if the Glacial's HP falls below a certain point with enough Glacons remaining, the Glacons will merge into a new enemy, so failing to reduce their numbers is highly dangerous.
In short, this is definitely a fight that you don't want to go into running single target. Unlike when Glacial was first released on to the servers as the Reset Bird, it originally was, you have to bring an AoE here. You can't like just one shot Glacial, then just slowly chip down the minis. You have to AoE.
Which can be unfortunate because for some really good units, like for Esther, they don't exactly skills. Bolting Strike is definitely not AoE chaining skill. So at least for me, I'm definitely going to be bringing in my Xeno and my Axstar because sure, it's not inherently AoE, but that backloaded AoE hit is definitely going to be nice. Or I might just do what I usually do for trials and just aerial ray chain.
Well, the thing to think about with Esther, though, is that her LB is non-elemental, which means that you can still bring her, but and just use her LB as her main source of damage. Bring like someone who can imbue fire, or give her a fire greatsword, and then have her use her AOE's to slowly sort of chip down everything. And then once you have it up, just blast her LB, take out a huge chunk of Glacial's health. Because by the way, Glacial should I don't actually remember its resistances. You might know more about that than me right now, Ganas. Um, I believe back when it originally released, I know back when it originally released, non as a non-scorn, it was weak to fire by 1,000%. I do not believe that is the case this time. At most, it might be 100 or 200, but but I don't expect to walk in here, survive your first turn, and then one shot it with fire. Definitely not.
Otherwise, Ignacio would be a really nice unit for.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
our resident JP expert, I'm not gonna go ahead and like claim him as the JP expert. He's just the
The one for our
person.
server.
Yeah, he's just the one on our server who knows the most and just plays a lot of JP. He's more active on JP than he is on global. He is really the one we go to for this information, and he wasn't able to join us here for these videos, but he did tell me that he was willing to give me any information, and he did redirect me to the old Reddit post for the Glacial, and it looks like it's 100% resistant to non-elemental attacks and 30% weak to lightning. So CG Lightning and Esther, I guess.
Yeah.
Although on this old Reddit post, that there are some teams that people used on JP to clear this, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It is immune to pretty much all status elements, as well as attack and magic break. It will deal a lot of ice, water, and wind. So that's going to be something you will want to look out for. Its Glacons are 50% weak to lightning, but can be hit by non-elementals and are immune to all breaks.
So I think actually Esther would be a really good pick for this trial if lightning is such a prevalent damage type here.
She
Which
does
means
have.
if I can get as many Esthers with asterisks or CG Lightnings with Brontus, I will be a happy duck.
Speaking of guns like Brontus, let's look at the clear reward for this trial. That would be the Quicksilver FFBE, a gun that has 172 attack and 80 magic, with the special ability Silver Bullet, which boosts physical and magic damage against demons, I believe 75%.
If it's the same as JP, it will be.
Yes.
Because
So
so
the
far
big
everything else
thing
is the same.
Yeah. So the big thing to remember about Scorn trial rewards, you can even go back and look at the last Scorn trial that was released, which I believe was Gilgamesh. No, that was Lich. Wait, Lich. What? Wait a minute. What the hell? Whatever. Usually, I guess, uh, the passive that it grants has a significance as far as the next trial that gets released. For example, from the Scorn of Octopus and Teacher, we got the Stardust Rod, which had Skyfall, that had extra damage against demons and undead, and which just so happened that the next trial was Scorn of Lich, which gave Longinus, which was extra damage against fairies. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Glacial is an avian and fairy type. So, or
It's an
type.
avian spirit.
Yeah, avian spirit, avian fairy, same general idea. You want to, so generally speaking, if you have already cleared Scorn of the Lich, and you plan on using a physical attacker, bringing along, giving them the spear, the Longinus spear is definitely a good idea and something to consider while gearing out your units.
I do want to point out real quick, just I'm going to slap this disclaimer in here. All of this information that we are gathering, all this information that we're giving out right now, this is all unofficial information. This is all stuff that we've gotten from JP on the old Reddit post for that. Just information that isn't quite in the game yet. So take with a grain of salt. They could change
Yes,
things.
absolutely.
They probably won't, but this is unofficial.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I think unofficially we should probably do a little bit of team suggestions in
Um,
terms of like one or two units that we think would be a good thing to bring along if that's part of your plan.
right
Uh,
before
Ganas, if
that,
you want
I
to start.
just want to get that last point in. The Glacial can inflict stop. Now this actually ties in with the one unit I will mention right now. And this is actually a unit these two units are units that are in every single build aside from one from JP, is both Nicole and Folka. Which Nicole, his abilities came recently with his enhancements, the ability to boost resistance to stop and remove stop in the same ability, as well
Yes.
as that water and ice resistance up.
I'm sure there will be people using either Folka or Zargabath, who, if you remember, when enhanced, can prevent stop.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Yes, very true. I think so far we've suggested Volka and Nicole and Zargabath. Uh, did you suggest anyone else, Rusty?
Sylvie can stop too. Ayaka can, right?
Yeah,
uh,
that's great. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, Yaka can
Ayaka
stop.
can.
So
Okay.
those are all
You have
options.
some options out there, yeah.
Yeah.
In
So
terms of
keep going.
DPS though, don't do any ice, water, or wind damage. And I just want to make sure we look at the rest of the rewards, just not the rewards themselves because they're kind of the same as usual. But we want to evoke 2 espers, we want to deal lightning damage, and we want to defeat 2 of the glacial sculptures with a limit burst.
For a
Which
Yossi ticket.
means, yeah, which means we are I'm going to assume the glacial sculpture is what the Glacons turn into, so
Yes.
that might mean that we will want to actually prolong it. Unlike what you said before, where we want to be careful, we might want to force those Glacons to fuse specifically to get this, which can be a little tricky.
Well,
I
yeah.
figured something just to make sure, just in case, because I know that not a lot of people go for full clears on their first run. Something to think about. It's just something to think about, something to remember, just something to keep track of, and to like, because I know that a lot of people like to try and rush through trials and just blow through the boss, destroy it as fast as possible, and then all of a sudden they you know get totally surprised by this one mechanic and their team wipes.
Yeah.
Just it's just better to keep in mind that this is a thing that can happen, and if you are not looking to clear all missions and run, you have to be careful about managing your Glaycon count.
So, going on with the types of damage, you will most likely want to bring a Charlotte if you have it because of her innate ice resistance, but you want to magic cover. Don't bother with physical cover or really physical. Don't even try provoking because its auto attacks will probably be physical, but its 2 big physical attacks are both AOE. So you'll want to focus on that magic tank. Uh, and build her or whatever magic tank you take with ice, water, and wind at least 150 because it looks like 50% is 100% is the highest debuff. So bring to 100% for all 3. You don't have to do that with your build. You can use Sargabath or Nicole. Just make sure you keep that micromanage your team. Don't let any buffs go away. However, be careful because one of the physical moves deals ice, water, and wind and is uncoverable.
Yes, very much
With
something to think about.
Maybe
AoE,
consider maybe consider re-raise then.
yeah,
Or at least remember to keep buffs or innate resistances, and also units that have an endure passive. Those are always units that you can use there, especially since after those moves, majority seems to be mostly magic. You might just consider eating the physical either with a unit that can provide, or thinking about it, going into my own unit suggestions, a unit that I actually just thought about, um, though, you might want to think of a unit like Jiraiya for this trial. Now, I know a lot of people are probably thinking, Jiraiya? Why Jiraiya? Jiraiya's old, kind of lame. If you enhance him, one of the moves that he gets is called Sixfold Protection. Sixfold Protect, or it's that or six protections. Yeah, six protections. It gets enhanced at with his, and while it does have a 70 MP cost, it does negate one physical attack to for all allies. Um, which means you get one evade, uh, during your turn, which means you can generally avoid uh, at least some of the damage from one of those attacks that might be scary, and also does raise resistances for ice, water, and wind, along with fire, lightning, and earth, but those aren't necessarily needed here. And along with the fact that he is a hybrid, he has a lot of fire damage. He can hit extremely hard as long given that you give him the turns he needs to get where he needs to be. Another unit, one we've already mentioned, Esther, because she is non-elemental on her LB, she can be a very good choice in terms of a damage unit. And Zeno for his innate fire imbue. Other units to consider would be units that can imperil fire and imbue fire. Units like Ignacio, units like Edgar. I don't think he imperils, but he is a breaker, and you can have him just fit with a fire weapon if you really want him to do a little bit of damage on off turns.
I will say as just
Oh, Jesus, Rusty, your mic, you like moved across it or something.
Oh, whoop.
Anyway, there we go.
Yeah.
Is your mic okay? Yeah, there we go. You're good now.
Oh, good.
So anyway, you were saying, Ganas?
just because I like to do silly things, if you have the gear for it, just gear everyone for 150% ice, water, and wind. And even if you just use abilities to keep that up as well, because then that uncoverable physical damage can all be resisted.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to point out there is an AoE magic ability that is cast that is uncoverable, but it's only a 90%.
I want to point out a couple espers that might be useful since you have to summon them twice anyway. First, maybe Fenrir, who would go on Jiraiya, as you were talking about. Fenrir increases your stats, but he also gives one-time dodge to everybody in the party. So if it's on that move, and then there's Tetrasyphilid, who has Agent Killer for your DS.
Real quick, your mic is kind of acting up a bit. It's
Yeah, it's a
scratching
little
up
scratchy. But
as
to translate what he said, he pointed out Tetrasulfid because of Avian Killer and Wind Resistance. I don't remember the first one.
Fenrir.
Fenrir for the ice and Dark for the ice resist. And
well, he said Fenrir because when you evoke Fenrir, it gives everyone a
Yes.
one-time dodge, which could combat that uncoverable physical damage as well.
Yes.
that as well. Yeah. So there's always a number of options that we can run to, and a number of options that we can use. Just make sure that you pay attention to going for you, what's on your team, and try and mix it up a little bit. You have a lot of options. There's always a lot of options and things you can choose. And even if you don't have any of the units we named, I'm sure you have something that you can use. Hell, we mentioned Nyx, and technically you could use Nyx as your main damage for this. It just might take a while. Maybe.
So all in all, definitely protect yourself against that magic. Figure something out with that uncoverable tri elements physical move. The Glacons, when they turn into the glacial clones, is what the Reddit calls it. That looks like it might cause a dangerous chaining between the clone and the actual glacial. So do be careful about that. But I will say, bring an Esther, bring a friend Esther, or a Radiant Lightning. Deal the damage. Definitely do that limit burst. So long as you bring a Nicole, Volca, or a Zargabath and you keep your elemental resistances up, you shouldn't have too much of an issue. But if you've got a re-raise healer, bring her. because you have to have a safety net.
I'll tell you something I like to do with Sylvie, who has re-raise, if you don't know. She also has stop resistance, and if you put the Holy Wand on her and Curaga in one slot, she becomes like a healer, breaker, everything in one.
As you can, yeah, there's it just goes to show that there's a lot of different strategies that exist and that can be used, especially in something like this. Every trial every trial to me is a test of your account, and it's a test of your ingenuity in working with what you have.
Which is
Sometimes
why,
you sometimes you don't have something, but sometimes you may have something sitting in the back you can still use, but you may not have thought.
yeah, the strategizing and the depth to this game is one of the big reasons we are passionate about it.
So is there anything else, or should we just go ahead and go for closing remarks?
Closing remarks it is. If so, I'll just give myself a quick start. I think that as far as patches go, as mentioned earlier, this is kind of a slow week, so it was a good place for us to start on. I think, it kind of gives us a chance to sort of work out our own our own kinks with talking about this stuff, kind of figuring out a little bit. We kind of got to talk about a whole lot of things that can happen, that will happen, and ways we think can help your accounts. If anyone has any comments, I think that would probably be something to leave it on, as in terms of like what you think we could have talked about. We didn't cover what leave
Oh yeah, definitely.
any comments you have towards like what we didn't say. Feel free to leave those, stuff like that.
And I don't know how these two feel, but I am definitely accepting of all uh, constructive criticism. I want this to improve. I want this to be better. I want this to be a news segment. It will be long, yes, but I want this to be for the community. I want to get as much information out to you guys. I don't just want to be like, hey, here's the news. This is the news. There you go. I want to have this be a discussion. And if you guys want to join in on that, go ahead, leave all of your comments that you can on this video. There is a Discord channel. I will leave the link in the description below. Join that. We've got already a good group of people who play this game. Definitely a lot more players will be appreciated, and being able to talk to you guys outside of the video, maybe even have you guys be talking in a chat while we're recording, just so that we can kind of get your guys' opinions in here as well, will definitely be a great help. So any way you can help, go ahead, join the Discord, comment down below, let us know.
Like and subscribe, leave a comment.
There you go.
Very nice and simple. Right.
And of course, if you guys also want to watch some stuff, I do have some other stuff that I may or may not be doing on the channel. I am thinking about doing some vlogs. I know Ginsu has a Twitch account.
Yeah.
If he wants to talk about that, plug himself in a little bit.
I guess really quickly, twitch.tv/Genso Sakai. I do a lot of I just kind of do whatever I feel like doing. Sometimes that's a gacha. Sometimes it's just a normal RPG. Recently, I know for my next couple of streams, I'll be doing Fire Emblem Three Houses. So if you kind of want to watch me do that, feel free to come in, give a talk. I usually stream around. It kind of depends on the day, but usually from around 6 or 7. Because I'm a weeb and I like to watch anime before I start streaming. But if anyone just wants to come in, chill out, just lurk in the channel, and just listen to music, have a good time, feel free to
And
show
I
up.
will definitely put the link for that down below as well.
Thank you, sir. And Rusty, you got anything to plug?
Not really. I'm just a third mic.
He will be in the Discord channel.
I
The
am.
three of us, yeah, the three of us will be there. There's a lot of other people. Other than that, I think we're out.
Yeah.
Thank
See
you for
everyone.
watching, guys. Hope you got all the information you needed. See you next week.
See ya.